3 different families gave him back. The reason was the same every time. He cried too much. A 150-pound Bullmastiff that howled and whined the second he was left alone, that threw himself against closed doors, that could not survive a minute in an empty room. Too needy, too much, too broken to keep. Then, a 29-year-old widow who could not stand the silence in her own house heard that cry through a kennel door in Fort Collins, Colorado. 11 months later, at 2:54 in the morning, the exact thing that got him returned 3 times became the only reason she woke up alive. Rachel Mercer was 29 years old, and her house had been quiet for 16 months. Her husband, Daniel, died on a Tuesday in October when a truck crossed the median on Interstate 25 just north of the Harmony Road exit. He was 32. They had been married 4 years and 11 days. One phone call at 5:50 in the evening, and the life she had planned simply stopped existing. She still kept his coffee mug in the cabinet, she still kept his side of the closet exactly the way he had left it. And every morning at 6:40, she drank her coffee alone at a kitchen table built for 2 in a 2-bedroom townhome off Drake Road that had become 3 sizes too big. She was not sleeping, not really. 3 hours here, 2 hours there, the rest of the night spent staring at the ceiling, listening to a house that made no sound at all. A grief counselor once told her the silence is the hardest part for the people who lose someone suddenly. There is no slow goodbye to get used to. One day the person is simply there, and the next the quiet is so total you can hear the refrigerator humming from 2 rooms away. Rachel taught 2nd grade at an elementary school off Timberline Road. She smiled at 22 children every day. Then she drove home to nothing. It was Carmen, another teacher down the hall, who first said the word out loud. "There is a Bullmastiff at Poudre Valley Rescue," she said over lunch one Thursday. "He has been sitting there almost a year. Nobody will take him." Rachel laughed. "A Bullmastiff, Carmen? I can barely take care of myself right now." Carmen did not laugh back. She just slid her phone across the table with a photo on the screen and said, "Go meet him before you say no." Rachel went that Saturday, just to look. That's exactly what she told herself the whole 20-minute drive. His name was Moose. He was lying in the back corner of Kennel 9, 150 pounds of fawn-colored muscle with a black mask for a face and loose skin that folded over itself like he was wearing a coat 2 sizes too big. His paperwork read like a list of everyone who had ever given up on him. Surrendered once, adopted and returned, adopted and returned. The shelter worker, a soft-spoken man named Travis, would not sugarcoat it. "He has never bitten anyone," Travis said. "Not one incident in 287 days. The problem is that he cannot be alone. The first family brought him back after 5 days. The second family lasted 3 weeks. Same complaint every time. He cries. He follows you into every room. He throws his body against the door the second you walk out of it. People hear a 150-pound dog sobbing through the walls, and they panic. They decide something must be wrong with him. I see you've made it this far and still have not subscribed. That stings a little. Moose's story is exactly why this channel exists, so hit subscribe." Rachel crouched down in front of the chain link. Moose slowly lifted his enormous head, and then he made a sound she had never heard a dog make. Not a bark, not a growl, a low, broken, almost human cry. The sound of something that had been left behind so many times, it stopped believing anyone would ever stay. Rachel's chest cracked open. She knew that exact sound. She had been making her own version of it into a pillow every night for 16 months. "He cannot be alone," she thought. "Neither can I." She signed the adoption papers 35 minutes later and drove him home in the back seat of a Honda Civic he barely fit inside. The first week, Travis turned out to be right about everything. Moose followed her from the kitchen to the bathroom to the laundry room and back, and he did not understand the concept of a closed door. But Rachel did not mind, because for the first time in over a year, her house had a heartbeat inside it. Moose did not sit beside her on the couch like a normal dog. He sat on her, all 150 pounds, climbing into her lap, dropping that giant head against her chest, pinning her under a warm wall of fawn fur while she laughed and pretended to complain. He ate 9 pounds of food a week. He had come to her at 128 pounds with his ribs showing, and within 2 months he was a healthy, glorious, ridiculous 150. He had strong opinions about everything. Bath night was a war. 150 pounds of dog convinced the teal towel was trying to murder him. Rachel soaked to the skin every time. That first December, she bought him a matching red plaid pajama set so they could take a Christmas photo together. He wore it for 4 minutes before he destroyed it, and the photo she actually got, him mid-chew with a plaid hanging off one ear, is still her phone background. On his second birthday, she made him a plate of brisket and a tray of blue frosted cupcakes. He inhaled the brisket in 9 seconds and then looked at the cupcakes like they had personally insulted him. And every evening, he carried the TV remote across the room and dropped it into her lap, his not-so-subtle way of telling her to sit down and stay. If that made you feel something, you already understand why these stories matter. Something shifted in Rachel that she did not even notice until it had already happened. She started sleeping. The first night, Moose lay on the floor beside her bed. The sound of his slow, heavy breathing, in and out like a tide, did what 2 years of sleeping pills and white noise machines never could. She slept 7 hours straight. She woke up confused, almost frightened, because she had forgotten what a full night felt like. They walked the trails at Pine Ridge in the mornings, the foothills turning gold and rust through October, and for the first time since Daniel, Rachel caught herself looking forward to something. The neighbors who used to cross the parking lot the moment they saw a 150-pound Bullmastiff coming started stopping to wave instead. Some stories are worth passing on, and Moose was already quietly writing his. Then, 3 nights before the middle of January, Moose started doing something new. It began around 11 at night. He would get up from his spot beside her bed, walk out into the hallway, and stand at the floor vent with his nose pressed down and his whole body locked still, sometimes for an hour at a time. Rachel told herself it was nothing, a mouse in the wall maybe, a draft. But by the second night, he refused to touch his dinner until he had paced the entire townhome twice. By the third night, he would not lie down at all. He stood in the hallway between her bedroom and the furnace closet, and every so often he let out that same low, broken cry from the shelter, the one that used to mean, "Please do not leave me." Rachel did not understand yet that it had started to mean something else. The night it finally happened was January 18th. Rachel had gone to bed at 10:30 with a dull headache she blamed on a long week and a single glass of wine. At 2:54 in the morning, Moose started screaming. There was no other word for it, not barking, screaming. That broken howl at full volume, 150 pounds of dog hurling himself at her bedroom door over and over until the frame shook in the wall. Rachel sat up and the room spun around her, her head splitting, her stomach rolled. She felt drunk, heavy, slow, like she was trying to move underwater. She tried to tell Moose to stop and the words came out wrong and slurred. That was the exact moment the fear cut clean through the fog. Something was wrong with her. Moose grabbed the sleeve of her shirt in his teeth and pulled, dragging her off the edge of the bed toward the front door. And when her knees buckled, he shoved his enormous body underneath her and pushed. Rachel got the front door open and the cold January air hit her face like a slap. And with it came one single clear thought through all the haze: get help. She dialed 911 from the front step with shaking hands while Moose pressed hard against her leg, finally quiet now that she was outside and breathing real air. The fire department arrived in 6 minutes. The first firefighter through her door carried a meter, and it started shrieking before he was 3 steps inside. Carbon monoxide. The reading in her hallway was 410 parts per million. In her bedroom, the room where she had been sound asleep, it was 290. Anything over 150 is considered immediately dangerous. She had been breathing it in for hours. The source was her own furnace, a 14-year-old unit with a cracked heat exchanger that had been silently leaking poison into her air all through the January cold snap, growing worse every night the heat ran longer. The fire captain, a woman named Reyes, sat with Rachel on the back of the engine and told her something she will never forget. "Another hour in that bedroom," she said quietly, "and we would not have been able to wake you up at all. People do not wake up from this. That is what makes it so dangerous. It puts you to sleep, and then it simply does not let you go." The property company inspected all 12 units in the complex over the following week and found 2 more furnaces with the very same crack. Moose had not only saved Rachel, the crying that nobody could stand, the exact thing that got him returned 3 times, had flagged a danger that could have killed 3 different families. Rachel's mother drove up from Pueblo the next morning. She had spent 11 months quietly terrified about her daughter living alone with a dog that size. She walked through the front door, saw Moose lying with his head 2 inches from Rachel's feet and watching her like she might vanish if he blinked, and she started to cry. "I was so wrong about him," she said. The local news ran the story for 2 days straight. Poudre Valley Rescue received 38 adoption applications that week, and every long-term dog left in that building had a home by the end of the month. Today, Moose is 4 years old and Rachel is 31. He still sits on top of her instead of beside her. He still despises the towel. He still drops the remote into her lap every evening without fail, and every night he sleeps on the floor next to her bed, breathing in and out like a tide, the exact sound that taught her how to sleep again. When a dog cannot bear to be away from you, the world is quick to call it a problem, too clingy, too needy, too much. 3 families looked at Moose and saw a defect they could send back. Rachel looked at the very same dog and saw the truth of him. He did not love halfway, he simply could not. And that same heart that shattered every time a door clicked shut was the exact heart that refused to let her sleep through the thing that was quietly trying to kill her. So let me ask you, was Moose broken? Or was he just built to love harder than most people are able to handle? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you have ever taken in a dog the world had already given up on, share their story below. Somebody scrolling tonight needs to read it.